thing at some point asking you if it's okay to be live. Hi, everybody. We're here with
Yeah, sure.
Built Through Communication. So I'm going to talk to the people who are not here and the people who are here with me on Zoom at the same time. Okay, so y'all were doing an introduction earlier. Do y'all want to you want to roll that around one more time for the YouTube people? Thanks for being here. This is Piece of Built Through Communication, everybody, and we're going to introduce ourselves. My name is Terrence Lamont, and I am the director at the Maplewood School of Metaphysics. I'm also the National Peace Ambassador, and this is a program that is actually, maybe this is more along the lines of being sponsored by uh, the Peace Dome or the Universal Peace Covenant more than the School of Metaphysics, even though the School of Metaphysics is how the Peace Dome and the Universal Peace Covenant came into existence. But this is kind of an arm of peace, right? So we're going to have this little discussion, and we'll jump right in. Anybody else feeling like they want to introduce themselves? Please go ahead.
I'm Winston Cunningham, Smyrna, Tennessee, former student, director, and so forth.
All right. I'll call on you. Maria, how about you?
I'm Maria Sanchez, and this is my first meeting joining you all here. So I view myself as an individual whose heart is attuned to peace. So this is something that I was very interested in joining and being part of the discussion. I like the topic, so thank you.
Awesome. Glad to have you. And you're in Indiana, is that right?
Virginia.
Virginia. Okay.
Alexandria, Virginia.
All right. Wonderful. TJ, how about you, sir?
Hi, I'm TJ. I'm
And
in Missouri.
oh, sorry. Yes,
No, I was done.
Okay. Okay, Nick, you want to introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, I'm Nick. I'm from Oakley. My gone to Memphis when I was back at Starfire Connection for Timville and Jonathan Durbeck, who was my friends and teachers before we got into school, before I got here into all this.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. And Miss Stella Lynn Bogio.
Yes, I'm Stella Limbocio. I am a teacher and director of the School of Metaphysics branch in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm happy to be here.
All right. Well, and oh, I forgot about the preamble. Do you want y'all have that pulled up? I can do it.
I have it.
Okay, you want to? Okay, so you want to speak that for us, please, sir?
I shall. All right. As it is established in the Universal Peace Covenant, and since peace is indeed built through communication, the open exchange of ideas is necessary for discovery and well-being, for growth, for progress, whether within one person or among many. We come together here now in this meeting of hearts and minds to have a spirited discussion. This is an open forum. This is not a class. There are no teachers in Pieces Built Through Communication, a live YouTube discussion for the first time. In this experience, we establish the reality that we are all equal. We have a moderator who has been chosen prior and chooses now to give of themselves freely and does not wish to push or cajole or manipulate those who join here today or those who might witness this in the future. For this discussion, it is indeed designed to share ideas, experiences, and understandings, and by doing so, come to a greater truth through each one sharing their personal experience with sagacity, with equanimity, both free of prejudice, so that thus we will come to know that peace is liberty in tranquility.
All right, man. Thank you, sir. So normally we have a topic and then dive into that topic. So I'm today's moderator, and what I would like to do is have a topic for a little while, maybe I don't know, around about 30 minutes. I got something I can share with y'all, a little story. Something just happened to me actually a few minutes ago. I was engaged in. And then I would like to lead us in a meditation that I think also will give us something to talk about. So I think we can go 30 and 30, like Kendrick Lamar, SZA. Anyway, okay. So the topic. So we normally share a topic. Somebody has an experience that they would like to talk about, and then they, give the details, and maybe they learned something, maybe they didn't. No, I'm in the midst of this, so I'm sure there's more that can come from what I think I already learned. So there's experiences that I have had where I'm in the situation, I'm there, right? And somebody else is observing me and somebody else most of the time. And there's this kind of desire for there's a savior mentality that I seem to elicit from people, where people want to, keep somebody from suffering in some way, shape, or form. And I just read a Rumi statement, which I don't know if it was Rumi or not, because I ain't never talked to Rumi. But I saw somebody posted something and they said Rumi said it. And it said that there is mercy in suffering. It said that suffering is necessary and that there's a kind of mercy that shows up for people when we allow ourselves to go through that experience. And I've received other counsel about suffering as well in a similar way, saying that there's a need when that shows up, that there's a need to surrender. And so my thought is, I want to get the exact words. My thought is, what is that? I mean, the experience I just had was someone just being very certain that it was their job to save other people and to protect them. And it's like so a lot of times people are, we have a trauma of some kind. Something happens in our life and we, as a child, most of the time, and we kind of get stuck in this thought process that doesn't allow us to move forward. I think most people call that trauma. So the quote is, "Suffering is a gift. In it is hidden mercy," by Rumi. So what I was experiencing with this person was that what they were saying, there was some things in there that I thought were valuable for me to hear, some critique or, stuff that I thought was important that, I listened to and I received it. And I wanted to make sure that they knew that I was receiving it and I was not going to allow them to throw me under the bus or make me a bad person or whatever. I was going to have that conversation with them where I just surrendered and said, yes, you're right. I'm so bad. I did that. Yes. I'm not that type of person. I ain't never going to be that type of person. So I did not argue with them. I just made points. They made points. But the gist of what they were saying was that, they needed to protect people from suffering. And I was just like, that just doesn't even feel right. And then I'm just on Facebook and up pops this quote by Rumi. And I'm like, oh, suffering is a gift. Rumi said that. That's interesting. And there's a mercy in it, it's beautiful. Rumi, always has these beautiful words, right? And so I'm curious. I can say more, but let's see what happens with just what I said. I'm curious what y'all's experience are. And it's 6:42, so I don't think we're going to stop at 7:30. We don't have to, but we'll see how that goes. We normally go an hour, though, but we started a little late. So feel free. What do you guys think about what I just said? I'm not going to call on you.
I'll speak. The suffering was a Buddhist concept, and that's what the Gautama, who became the Buddha, like Jesus became the Christ, he wanted to understand suffering. That's what his experience was all about. So it is through the suffering. Another word for suffering is experience. The experience can be good, bad, or ugly, but it is experience. And if we're reluctant to go through the experience, that increases the pain. So that's where the pain comes in. And mercy is the relief from that experience through understanding, which is also the definition of me. When Jesus said, no one comes to the Father but by me, Father being superconscious mind, no one comes to the Father but by me. Me is that same thing as mercy, the end of experience where there's understanding. When you identify something in yourself, well, say, well, that's me. I think that's what Jesus was really saying. And I see that the biggest mistake people have made is to see that when Jesus said words I am, that he was talking about himself. And what I see is that he was talking about I am. This is all.
Okay.
For now.
Just quick point is that some people call that grace too. Like there's a way that grace and mercy, I think, have a relationship.
Yeah.
And some people see that like that. And I've heard it said as grace a lot, but I've never heard it.
Well, grace and mercy are the same thing.
I think so, probably.
It's the end of the experience.
Yeah.
Where the understanding settles in, the number 10.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
Of course, in Japan, when I was a kid, the Japanese had a saying, you're either number 1 or you're number 10. So they had a different twist on that. Number 10 is this, you're number 1, you're number 10. That's the way the Japanese put it. This was in 57, 58.
Okay.
That was my experience.
That's just how you see it.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a thought?
I do. Kind of relates to both. I view both the concept or idea of someone wanting to jump in and save someone, right? They see something there from the observer perspective, and also the person that might be entering in a stage or a time of suffering. Both are a result of not surrendering to just allowing the flow of events and whatever may be. And then the person who might be suffering is because they're not surrendering into just allowing the feeling of and the grace that can come from it and the learning. So I view them different roads, but starting at the same, like holding on to, I must not surrender to what is. So
Yeah.
it came to mind.
You know,
Yeah.
in the permanent healing book from the School of Metaphysics, the definition of pain is the refusal to learn. So it follows from what you were just saying.
Yep. Universals.
Yeah, I had a thought as well. About suffering. I was thinking actually today about attachments and like emotional attachments are going to be attached to anything, and that can be a form of suffering. Definitely, I had that thought. Yeah, it was interesting. Probably about an hour ago about thinking that some attachments that I've had, instead of like trying to push against them or make them go away, just allowing myself to feel into the experience and see, really realize what I am learning from it. And I do sense that there is that beauty and that grace from that situation, because that's when we all come here to learn. And I had that realization, like I'm trying to make something go away instead of, okay, what is this really teaching me? Or how can I have this experience of attachment or maybe I feel sad or, upset. Maybe I don't have what I think I should have or whatever. So how can I embrace that experience? Like what am I learning and how can I just kind of embrace it instead of like fighting against it? And that's where I think the beauty that is where the beauty comes in because then I allow it to go through me and I'm like, okay. And I do come out a different person and I am different. And, even though like my conscious mind's like, I don't want to go through this or I don't like this. This is terrible. Why is this happening to me? Those thoughts come up. But that's really how I learn and that's how we grow and stuff. And yeah, may not be always so popular to say that, but there's definitely beauty in suffering and with attachments.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the piggybacking on what you just were talking about, me, as my teacher used to point out, the harder you push against something, the more it pushes back. And so I think surrendering is about just letting go and letting it come to you and experience it the way that it is, you without the shoulds and should nots and all that stuff.
Amen.
So be it.
Yeah. I like what y'all are saying about it comes at the end, these things that we can call grace and mercy show up at the end of the experience, after you've let it gestate, kind of, right? After you've processed the experience. And then you say, okay, this is what happened. And you just get honest about it. You let it in. And then that's when grace and mercy can show up. So I appreciate that thought.
Well, I've come to understand that honesty is the only true beginning. So until honesty is there, until you can admit what is occurring, you're not at a starting place.
Yeah, that was kind of this experience was that there's this, if it's real to you, then you should speak it, is what I think. I don't think everything that we speak is absolutely true or something like that, but at least you're being honest, right, about how you feel,
Yeah,
You're
speaking truth as I see it.
Yeah.
That was drummed into me at the School of Metaphysics, and I appreciate that because that's what works.
That's where, like you said, that's where things get going.
Yeah, that's a start. In my experience, doesn't necessarily need to actually be correct for me to speak it. If I speak it out, especially, in a room full of people that, can see from different perspectives than the one I'm seeing from, if I speak it out and begin to receive those other perspectives, then, I get to, see my thing from a different point of view, maybe, and and have a little bit more understanding, which is, what, has been mentioned a lot here. Interestingly, I was thinking about it as soon as you said something about someone trying to save someone from suffering. I thought about like, what does it mean to save something? If you save something, then it's usually stored up for a later time. So is that suffering just going to happen later? Save someone?
It is, yes.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's probably true. If that person is meant to have that experience, then they're going to have that experience, and you're just saving it for later.
Yep.
I looked
and
up
it's also,
mercy, and an interesting thing that came up when I looked it up, and something that is commonly known is that I think it's French that says merci for thanks. And as I was just looking at the definition for mercy, it said all of the stuff that we already mentioned, the grace and the, at the end and all of that stuff. But among the definitions was thanks. And I stopped for a second. I was like, thanks. I was like, oh yeah, it does mean, thank you, because when you do receive that understanding, and in that understanding, kind of find a relief from, what we would call suffering. And I put suffering in quotation marks, right? Because it's kind of not real. It's real experience, like you experience something. But I think the concept of suffering to me is limited to the experience of the human body and not the greater self. The greater self isn't suffering. It's just having an experience. But, all of that, to say that at the end of that experience, when the understanding is received, there is a thankfulness, even for the experience. That might not be immediate. Um, I remember the first time that I heard someone say I should be thankful for like all of the experiences I had, because I just wanted to be thankful for the good experiences and not the ones that I thought were painful or what we might call suffering. But after I heard that and thought about it for a while and rejected it and heard it again a few times and began to take it to heart, I did find that I was also grateful for the things that I found painful or to have been suffered as experiences because of what I took away from them. And without those experiences, I wouldn't be who I am. And since I have the grace, if you will, that's another word that's been thrown out. I have the grace of loving myself. Then how could I, love myself without, if I was going to be somebody different without those experiences, I wouldn't be me. And since I love me, I'm grateful for the experiences that made me who I am. I wouldn't be me without those experiences. So mercy.
Yeah. I wanted to interrupt you because you've said oftentimes this thought form of if you do that, then you're stealing. If you are trying to protect somebody, the save,
Yeah.
saving, right? And that came to me very clear with this situation. I was like, yeah, if somebody is trying to protect somebody from something, they're trying to steal their suffering, or they're trying to steal their sadness or their grief. And it's like they bought that. They paid good money for that sadness and that grief, and that suffering. You don't need to be taking it away from people. They need it.
I remember hearing Dr. Daniel Condren speak at the college at one of the summer gatherings that around the 4th of July used to have the camp out. And he had talked about something that he had come to that was over and above what he had had before. And somebody wanted to know, well, how did you come to that? And he said, his answer was this. He said, I learned so much through going through that. And he was talking about the pain of going through it. He said, I learned so much through the experience of going through that, said, I wouldn't want to take that away from him.
Yeah.
So if I give you the answer, Barbara used to be fond of saying, I heard her say it a bunch of times, well, you can earn it like I did.
I like that. Yeah. I'm thinking that I need to make "I'm sorry" a stronger part of my vocabulary because I really shut it out. Um, but I'm just recognizing that if I'm honest, that I don't want this certain thing to be the way that it is, I can say I'm sorry, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to turn my back on the learning or pretend like it didn't happen, or I'm still going to stay solid, within myself. Saying I'm sorry isn't about me.
Well, you know what I do when somebody says I'm sorry? I say,
Well,
I say, I think you're okay, but you can be whatever you want.
right. And so that's why I'm saying this now, because I need to make I'm sorry a real part of communication, and not let it be a joke anymore. Because it's something that I'm noticing how beneficial some people to hear that, regardless of what I think about it. Other people are at where they are. And so that communication, what I figured out is that the body is designed for communication. The soul uses the body to communicate with other souls. We can do all the energy work and all the telepathy and all that stuff too, but everybody isn't capable of doing that. So in order to get on even ground with everybody, we created one part of this creation process. The body is designed for us to be able to communicate. So anytime that somebody doesn't feel like they're being heard or listened to or whatever, that is a physical experience, but it's not one that doesn't have great value.
Well,
You know?
something Einstein said fits right here with what you're saying. He says if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old child, then you don't understand it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm experiencing. I'm learning right now because, like I said, it just happened. But there was also some spiritual words say, "You does not suffer," and when you hear it like that, I get hard on myself. I was saying it could, but I think, you know,
Is it my connection, Terrence Lamont? I can't hear you clearly. It could just be my end. I just want to make sure it's not.
I'm having that
it's-
It
experience
was a little
also.
choppy as
Yeah,
well.
me too.
Okay, so what you were just starting to say
You were
was
cutting out.
clear. Yeah,
Okay, how about now? Is this better?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. I
You're good.
said
Now we can hear you.
something about you did not suffer. Is that what y'all didn't hear?
Mhm.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Just turn it up.
Okay. Okay. So I was just saying that some spiritual teacher I heard say, you do not suffer. The real you does not suffer.
Right.
You know, like who you really are. And so that's the same thing I think for me, learning about saying certain words and phrases and things that get people's attention, like I'm sorry, you know, like that kind of means something to people. I like thank you. I love thank you, right? That's one. Or I love you. You know, we want to talk about Ho'oponopono, but I'm sorry is the one that I'm always like, I don't really want to say that. You know, it's like, you know,
Can I,
so
I'd like to add on something to that because, and maybe it's just because I'm learning over time more and more the nuances of words, right? And I think in Ho'oponopono, even though I sometimes say it incorrectly, that is more like a prayer. That's like between you and God, right? And you might be intending someone else, but in conversation with others, how do I put this? Sometimes if someone leans into saying, "Oh, I'm sorry," it's like a condition of themselves. Where if they say, "I apologize," they're owning up to what it is, the event or the interaction or the misunderstanding. So I try not to say I'm sorry to a person because it's saying a condition about myself versus apologizing for something. And that might just be linguistics, but
yeah,
because someone can say I'm sorry all they want and still behave the same way. So
right. So, but you're saying replacing I'm sorry with I apologize. Okay, I can, yeah. I guess what I was saying more along the lines of is that it is a personal experience, and I think it's one that I need to have because it takes me away from condescending. Is what I just heard. I was like, yeah, it's like a if I don't say it, and I'm saying this is what I'm saying. I'm saying it for other people, you know, because it's like I could come across as condescending because I'm so sure of myself. You know, I'm so confident, you know, and I don't want to be made to be, you know, an enemy or whatever. I don't like that. So I, you know, I push against that a little bit. And I think that pushes me over a kind of, there's a communication breakdown, you know, that I've been experiencing. And I think if I humble myself by saying, yes, that very much drawback word, sorry, you know, I don't think I'm going to do it for the rest of my life, but I think I want to test it out and kind of see how it goes.
Well, one distinction I've found that helps me, it's necessary for me, is to be cognizant and differentiate between sympathy and empathy. Because
Yeah.
Until a person starts digging in and learning a little bit about themselves, they see those two as being the same thing. And it is in separating and identifying and admitting and integrating the higher learning from those words. And I'm careful when I'm talking to someone that I don't give them an excuse by sympathizing with them.
Yeah.
Rather than empathy, I'll give them something that I found that is a help in seeing the truth, and that's the only thing that really matters. And because the truth is that mercy, or that's me, the end result, the relief from the experience, the truth.
Yeah, I guess the question also I have to ask myself is, am I being honest? Like what we're just
Yes.
talking about. I really need to get clear on that. Am I being honest with what I'm saying? And then I think whatever I say at that point is what is necessary, so to speak, right? That's what aligns me with what is in the present moment, if I'm being honest.
Well, a lot of times I'll hold back on saying anything to keep from sympathizing.
Mhm.
And it allows, when I'm silent for a moment, it allows the other person to hear their own thoughts, and that could be more valuable to them than anything I can say.
Silence is powerful, and we're gonna work with silence in this meditation. So
It's to add on to what Winston was sharing. It's been my experience that, in that case, sometimes, questions can be helpful, um, because that doesn't necessarily open the door for sympathy, but it does invite an opportunity for understanding or clarity, and where this other person is, or what experience they're having that they are trying to share. And like you said, it gives them more space, more opportunity to speak and hear themselves, and perhaps be able to, in their attempt to clarify themselves to you, see themselves more clearly as well.
mhm. Yeah.
Now, this thought just occurred to me that in the Bible, any character represents a part of ourselves.
Yep.
So, in always, of course, in language of mind, you begin to see how these things are structured, and all of the changes that you see throughout the Bible are all talking about our own evolution, our own growth up to this point, and what will be future. So, because if something gets my attention, it's got something to do with me. That's something I know for sure through experience.
Yeah.
Because when I can stop saying "What's the matter, you?" and look at this one, that's what that name stands out, because with Squirrel and Bullwinkle, and every one of their friends went to college, they called it "What's the matter, you?" He was attending "What's the matter, you?"
Isn't that also a song? Sorry, that's in my head. What's the matter, you? Hey, got an overspend. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't take much to start something new.
It doesn't. I've experienced like almost every phrase causing me to think about a song. Like somebody just says something, and I'm like, oh, there's a song.
I heard somebody famous the other day say that when he was growing up, he said if he didn't start something, there wouldn't be nothing.
Yeah. So I'm gonna write an article about this. I'm writing down notes. Y'all are inspiring me um, to write. So there's sympathy and empathy. That seems to be very important. And can we see the difference? I think you can see the difference through honesty. And then there's that experience of letting go or surrender or allowance, that will bring about the ability to see the whole, right? To see oneness when you really, because that's what it's an egoic experience, right? For you to be like, I know, I got it, I know what needs to happen, it's like, and you get tunnel vision, right? And you're sunk down in, and you're not able to be free, and you can't breathe, and it's just. But then when you surrender, it's like, you can relax, you can finally just relax,
I
and then
was
you can.
just when you mentioned doing an article, where's this article going to wind up?
It's going to be in the vibrations,
Okay, that's
good
good.
vibrations.
And when I do a talk once a week for We're Valuable Media on Facebook,
Hmm.
and those are winding up on YouTube too. But this last Monday, when I was getting ready to do a talk, I was texting with a lady that I didn't know very well. And I was telling her I'd do a talk once a week. And she said, well, what are you talking about today? I said, well, I don't know yet. And that became the title of my talk. I don't know yet. So I never know where it's going to come from, but I know when I sit down and put the phone in front of me and turn it on, then I'll talk about something.
Well, that sounds like an act of surrender.
That sounded like a pregnant idea.
Yeah, it's like that's kind of what I'll have a inkling of a thought in my mind. I'll have something like floating around, and then I'll be like, well, I need to make a video, and I'll just fire up the phone and I'll just start talking.
Oh, and I love when I do one of my talks, and this may not be the best way to do it, but it's the way I do it. I just write down, like the talk I did last week. All I wrote down was, I don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what I'm going to say until I just go with that idea and see what comes out.
Yeah. And when we surrender, I think that's when the flow comes in, like the energy shows up, right?
Well, it is be still and know that I am God.
Yeah. The presence is already there, and then we can speak for it, Yeah. So,
a good place to be. I know I've got, I have no idea how much work I got left to do, because I've heard there's 144,000 different aspects of ourselves, and I've never even tried to count how many I'm aware of yet. I don't even know where I am. I mean, I know more than I did a while back, and I'm getting more as I go. But I don't have a clue how much time I got left. It don't really matter, because I'm enjoying what it is.
That's where the suffering comes in, I think. I think being a victim is one of those 144,000 aspects. It's understanding victimhood.
I've heard you talk about that.
I don't know why that would be left out. I mean, it seems
I don't know what I've left out. I know I've added a few things, but I don't know how much is left to go. A guy asked me one day, well, how do you know you got more to do? I said, because when I look in the mirror, I see somebody. And if I didn't have any more to learn, there wouldn't be nobody there.
Nobody there, right? You'd be finished. Yeah.
Yes. And so, and people always ask me, well, what happens after that? And after that, and one of my talks, I talk about we're on a mission and we get information on a need to know basis. And we get that information from our own soul by being still and paying attention. What you were just saying.
So whenever that in the Gene Keys, it talks about that. It talks about victim and freedom. And it talks about when you understand that the victim and the perpetrator are the same person, then you can be free.
Yeah. Yeah, life is fun. Sometimes it don't feel like it, but
that's true.
After a while, you realize, well, you can just laugh at that too.
Yeah. So public speaking, we're talking about making videos on We're Valuable Media. I know that Stella is getting into what's it called? Toastmasters.
Toastmasters, yes.
And I know Maria from
I'm
public
familiar with that
type thing too, because we make videos, and we're encouraged to make videos with.
Well, that's a similar principle. I went through the Dale Carnegie course. It's a 13-week course.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I learned I went in there. When I started, I was too shy to talk. And when I come out, I couldn't shut up.
You ain't too shy now. I was trying to segue away from you and I talking into Stella or Maria talking about their experience.
Well, that's what a leader does.
with with, make, with making videos or
I've-
public speaking? Do y'all have some thoughts about suffering in public speaking?
Well, just
Well,
with
no, we'll see.
a little, I would say, well, a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah. I would desire to make videos. I made a couple videos. I say I'm a little bit shy to get
Well,
out.
may I make a suggestion? When you go to the Toastmasters, why don't you film your talk?
I very well could do that.
That's
Yeah,
a good suggestion. What do you think about that?
I think that's great.
Yeah, no charge for that.
Yeah, I definitely will. I think that will give me more confidence and experience
Well, I've
for
that's
sure.
something I've noticed
Yo,
about
Winston,
doing the
okay.
talk.
Winston, we haven't stopped. The segue is still in play. We're segueing away from you and I talking to somebody else talking.
When you say so.
Maria, did you have any thoughts?
I do, but I think Nick started talking at the same time.
He
At the
did.
same time
I
as
know.
Sarah.
I was trying to remember what I was going to say, but I guess I don't think so. Yeah, about posting something. I guess that was very rude. Obviously,
No,
the idea
not
to
being
be
rude.
to be talking about videos opposed to speaking about sorry because that says I'm trying very much in pain on video. That's why I said it. I mean, like at all, really.
Okay.
Maybe other reasons, but not about presence on you sounds good.
Okay.
And then to kind of, it's piggybacking on what Winston was saying, but what you did for your last talk I almost still felt like this incredibly fear. Like it was two things that I was thinking of. I was like, that would scare me to death or, figuratively, because there's a certain degree of like always being prepared, right? At least with what I'm going to be saying or sharing because I was the traditional teacher. But then at the same time, I have a ton of like videos or things that I've shared with myself. I haven't shared them outside of. So it's a degree of what is that? I can't recall what it is, but there's that whole thing when you think about energy or in day to day, how things can be to you, by you, for you, or through you. I feel like Winston, you're at the place right now where you're allowing things to just come through you. I'm dabbling in okay, it's for me. I want to allow that through me, right? And to feel that freedom and allow it because it is like an allowance where I have still that kind of, I'm saving myself from imagined harm of sharing, if that makes sense.
It's funny. Bruce Springsteen today just released 7 albums. They said that on the radio, and I was like,
What?
that is not true. It was like somewhere in the 80s or the 90s, they were just making music. They couldn't stop. And they just had too much. And they were like, this stuff goes on the album and this doesn't. And so he just has this cachet of album music, material that never came out. And today they just released it.
Wow.
So when you said that, Maria, that you have something on your phone, I mean, you think about that, about the fact that, you have all this material,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's like there's a fan of one. It's for me for now, so it's all good. And a very select few that I feel like, I get anyway, it's just funny. Captive audience will be in the car with a friend. I'm like, oh, can I plug in my phone? You want to hear my newest? And anyway.
Yeah.
Can I say something to Maria?
If she wants you to, I guess. I don't know.
I'll tell you, well, you should, the world is waiting to hear what you have to say. So don't be stingy.
I'm at that stepping point. I know, yes, I'm there.
Well, just jump in.
Just jump in. About to jump.
Yes. And thank you for reframing the whole idea of like, I don't know. I was getting tired of myself saying that to others. And now I'm like, wow, that's a pretty that could be viewed as expansive, not constricting. So
it's, I don't know yet.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I like that. I don't know yet. I will at some point. I will. We're gonna have to watch your video so we can see what you had to say about that.
Well, I appreciate it.
Intriguing.
And if you like it, tell all your friends and enemies.
The enemies will talk more. It's all good. It's better advertising.
Well,
they will, right? No, advertise for you, right? Okay, so let's do this meditation. This is something that you're familiar with, Maria's, in a certain way, but I put a twist on it. So this is very simple and short. I'm going to lead it, but it's not going to be what you would like. Maybe you've done before. It's going to be pretty short and sweet, but I think it's going to be impactful. So I'm going to say 4 words, and you might, if you have something to write with, you may want to have it next to you because you may want to write something afterwards. And so I'm going to say 4 words while we're in a meditative state, and then we'll come out and whatever happens, happens. Okay, so can y'all, let me see if I got that right there. Do that out there. All right. Okay, so I'm going to mute y'all who are not muted just in case something happens, you sneeze or your dog runs in or something. Okay, so if you will just close your eyes and relax, kind of sit with your feet flat, just be present. Those of you watching along, you can share in this experience too. Please do if you wish. So we're just going to sit present. Let's breathe. Let's just take in a deep breath through our nose. Breathe in. And breathe out. Silence. Silence. Just allow your mind to receive the question or the word. Silence. Silence. Quiet. 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 Stillness. 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 Peace. 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 Drawing your attention to your breath again and taking a deep breath. And open your eyes. So if you want to write something, take a few seconds or minutes to do that. Or if you just want to share what your experience was.
I saw a temple in the well.
A temple and a well.
Yes, in my meditation states.
Okay. I'm going to write
I
this
can write it
down.
down, but I can never say what I saw.
Yeah, I'm just writing it down. Okay, thank you.
And now, Andrea, let me start with that.
Temple and a well. That's beautiful. Okay.
The Guardians.
Looks like you had something, Maria.
Huh.
Some kind of epiphany hit you. And Guardians, you said? Nick?
Guardians of the Temple and stuff, and
Oh, Guardians of the Temple. Okay.
of Egypt. Like it's Egyptian temples, a pyramid of some sorts.
Got you.
See a lot when I say sometimes.
Okay. I would just say, Maria, like you made a face. It was
Oh.
like, whoa.
No, because I was like, wow, I'm very expressive. I guess when a thought comes across my mind, it shows on my face. Like, okay, good to know. It's still there.
Yeah.
No, just the whole like symbology of like whales. Like, what do they symbolize? The temple and the whale. Like whales can either. Anyway, so there was some connection happening with what I was realizing through that meditation. I think I stayed very like head centered and feeling of the words, but it was like bringing about an understanding of those words and how they each built towards peace. And then it was this idea, wow, it would be great to get like world leaders or anyone who's in like strife to just sit in a space, right? Not saying anything and allowing the communication to like be cultivated in their hearts, not from like agendas, and just to allow quiet to create peace.
Yeah. There's
To
a
be,
strong.
and then, yeah,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
to create like the temple of the whales, like the coming together, like not to, anyway, so getting a little there.
I see. You had a big picture. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
Sure.
Or
I was
sir?
gonna say what I saw until Nick said his, so I saw birds, and it was interesting because for just a moment I was like, why are you here? And I said, well, we'll later with the birds, but the a couple of thoughts showed up as silence and quiet and peace were being said or introduced, or those energies were being mixed into the flow, and in connection with the conversation that we were just having, as you were saying the words silence, and each time that you repeated it, silence, 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 quiet, 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 peace, 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 it was as if the sentence was being finished with, and this is where the mercy is, or this is how you get to it, is when you
Yeah.
start fighting what the situation is, and maybe even stop relating it, as in be silent for a moment, sit still, be quiet, find the peace that's within yourself, and in that experience the mercy of that situation or experience, but also birds.
Okay. That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, this is the second time I've did this, so this is early for me. I'm not sure what this is yet. Y'all are helping me understand it.
Yeah, I just felt like through this, it helped me to be more still and silent and just be more centered quicker than normal. Like I was able to rest into it or sink into it more smoothly and more easily than I have
Yeah.
in this previous, say group meditation, or a lot of times I'll be like restless or have a hard time being still. So it helped me to be there much quicker.
That was one of my goals, because I was considering like what I love. This is what I like. I like the present moment. I want to hear what your experience is, Winston, but I want to say this real quickly. I really, really like this thing that we call the present moment. Like it's pretty awesome. When when I can just be there and just be where I am and don't worry about anything and just don't think about stuff too much and I can just sit. I can just be right here. Man, I love that a lot. And I had now I'm gonna use this again. Y'all just help me to because I this is so funny. Things happen all the time. I'm a Lyft driver and I was just giving a lady a ride and she was like, oh, she was all frazzled and stuff. And I was just like, oh, what's going on? How you doing? And she's, oh, whatever, I'm blah, 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 right? And I was like, okay. And then I said, have you ever tried meditation? You ever thought about that? Oh, yeah, I tried that. And then I went to somewhere and I've been looking it up and stuff. And I do this app and it's not good enough. And anywhere I try to go, they try to charge a lot of money. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, I'm just listening. And I have some flyers for meditation that I lead on Saturday mornings in the car, and I said, hey, there. And she was like, oh, and it's free, and right, and she was like, oh, it's free, so all her everything. I listened to her. She laid out all these limitations, and I was like, here, limitations dead, no more limitations. Look at this, you know. And she still was like, oh, well, I don't know, and my car, and I said, okay, that's all right. But now I'm thinking I could simply just do this meditation for people in that moment while we're driving. I could turn the damn
Yes.
radio off. I don't want to listen to the radio anyway. I can turn the radio off and just say, hey, you want to try something with me? And then if they want to say yes, then we can just do it. So I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna start trying that. Yes, something you want to share too?
Just for a second, because I want to hear what Winston has to say as well. But if I ever take an Uber or a Lyft and the driver offers to meditate, that driver automatically gets 5 stars.
How drunk
Mm.
that.
Okay. All right, Winston, you want to share your experience? You are muted. Yes, sir. You are asked to be unmuted. There
Okay.
we go.
Yeah, as you were going through the steps there, the first one, what came behind it for me was openness. And that moved to the second one, followed by receptivity. And the third one, letting go of distractions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was distracted. Can you say those again? I wasn't writing it down. Sorry. Go ahead. Say it again.
First is openness.
Openness.
Number two is receptivity. That
Receptivity.
followed what you said. And then number three is letting go of distractions.
Got it.
And where peace is concerned, that's acceptance. Because the peace is always there. It's just that we keep pushing it away until we're ready to accept it.
Y'all are getting me excited. I'm happy. This is really groovy. This is great. Thank you. Wow. It's not what I expected.
Well, I very rarely get what I expect,
Yeah.
even though my teacher Nancy kept saying that success just means getting what you expect. But I'm always surprised.
Yeah.
And I think surprises are part of the spice of life.
Definitely. It took me a little while because I was focused on y'all, but I didn't know what I was like, ooh, did I have an experience? What happened? I was like, I was questioning. But as I was listening, it showed up.
Yeah.
And it was that my heart grew. Like I could actually feel it in my chest that my heart grew. That was interesting. It's like my heart chakra opened or spun or something, It felt magical. It's really great. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm excited about what more can come from this. And Maria, your suggestion, wouldn't it be wonderful? We could just get them in a room and just be quiet for a little while. Just sit here. let your bodyguards, I guess, be awake, but you just relax and see what happens. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I said we may go over, but I think this was a full experience. I don't know how many minutes we've been here, but this was super powerful. So thank you guys. Yeah. All right. That's Peace It's Built Through Communication for those of you watching at home, and I hope you had an experience. And if you did, you can put it in the comment section of whatever you're watching this on. I don't know if you can watch it on YouTube, maybe able to watch it somewhere else, but leave a comment. Let us know what your experience was. Thanks for watching. You can like and subscribe as well. And you can meet us at the Peace Dome, whether it be physical or virtual. Go to peacedome.org for the virtual Peace Dome. And you can also send us an email at peace@som.org. And maybe we can set you up with a tour of the College of Metaphysics so you can see the physical Peace Dome as well. So hope everybody has a wonderful time. Appreciate you watching. Peace be with you.